Is it just me? Or it's always the eyes? Howdy, y'all. I'm Brylan. So I've missed filming and hearing from you guys, and haven't been able to cover a lot of news this month as I deal with a lot of the health issues that I'm still going through. And I really do appreciate your prayers. And I'm hoping to be back regularly soon. So there's been a ton of new details regarding the assassination of Charlie Kirk coming out. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the things that are coming out change everything. At least a lot of the narratives that have been being pushed for the last month and a half, like leaked messages from someone close to both Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs have come out. Discord messages. Also, some private messages that were sent to another large YouTuber that explain a lot of and connect a lot of the details regarding what has come out about Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs. I'm going to show you all of this insane new info and leaked messages and pictures, but I know it's really popular right now to believe that Tyler Robinson didn't assassinate Charlie Kirk. And I definitely have my own questions with a lot of this myself. If you've seen my past videos covering the Charlie Kirk assassination, you would know that I'm not going to fall for any of the narrative hook, line, and sinker. I tend to skew on the belief that there's always something more going on than just the narrative being put out or just what we're seeing. But I think it's wild to just dismiss Tyler Robinson altogether. I want to share something that I think can change your life for the better. You know, the Fed just dropped the interest rates again, and that's really great news for American homeowners. If you're feeling overwhelmed thinking about the upcoming holidays, there is no better time than now to get your finances in order. It's hard to think about the holidays when everything is really expensive and your credit cards are already pushed to the max. With rates dropping, now is the time to pay off that debt. American Financing is helping homeowners access the equity in their home for instant savings. They're saving people just like you an average of $800 a month. That's massive. And many are seeing rates in the low fives. That's a game changer compared to those sky-high credit cards. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you extra breathing room for the holidays. It costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you can save. You know, Thanksgiving and Christmas are going to be here before you know it, so don't wait. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today. American Financing, 866-887-1201. That's 866-887-1201. Or go to americanfinancing.net/Riggs. Now, one of the breaking news stories that's coming out in the last day or so is that Charlie Kirk suspect's twin lover, Lance Twiggs, goes missing 6 weeks after political assassination. So I think this is being made out to be something bigger than it is. The relative said, I think Tyler got a whole lot worse in the year he and Robinson have been dating. They're big gamers, and obviously they have that group that influences them as well. And there have been a ton of messages leaked. We're going to look at those. A lot of them, I mean, I'm talking like a ton. Like there is a lot, and this isn't even all of them, but these are like the ones that highlight a lot of the mindset behind these Discord groups that they were in. And you can see that there was No Kings protests trying to get people together for the No Kings. But before this, there wasn't a whole lot of political talk. But you can definitely notice as time goes on in the Discord that things start to ramp up. One interesting thing I thought was Tyler actually admitted to being the one that assassinated Charlie Kirk. This is him here, Zealous Monkey. Hey guys, I have some bad news for you all. It was me at UVU, and this is a message that we already knew about. But look at one of the responses. Hey everyone, if you have not seen the news yet, Tyler's post above is true. He was taken into custody earlier today for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment to remember that God is living and a loving God who loves all his children. God calls sinners to be his saints, and I ask that you all take a quiet moment and pray for Tyler and his repentance. While Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I ask that we all pray for him and his family during these confusing times. Love you all. God bless. Now, that's really strange coming from a chat group that's been filled with people talking about how Lance Twiggs wanted to do things to his 2-year-old nephew. There was a lot of radicalization that was happening leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination. And then some random person's like, hey, let's pray for him. God's good. And this sounds like it's coming from somebody that's familiar with the group. But then that brings up these messages that were actually sent to this YouTuber named Turkey Tom. And he did a video going over a lot of these Discord logs and messages. And so that's where a lot of this information is coming from. But YouTuber Turkey Tom was recently contacted by an anonymous source who says that they have been gaming with Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs for the past 6 years. The source shared intimate details about the pair, including Discord screenshots and insights into the downward spiral that may have culminated on September 10th. It starts with, hello, I just watched your video on the Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler, and I thought you did a good job. I happen to know Tyler and Lance in real life. Now, there's some things blocked out to protect identity of people. But it goes on, I don't take a lot of pictures, so I can't prove it very well. But I am in Discord servers where both of them are in. Including the one where Tyler posted his confession. I don't have anything super big to say in relation to the murder, and I hope to stay anonymous. I have some pictures of that and some stories I can tell. I don't know. I know myself, if I was researching them, I'd like to know more because whenever I watch your vids, I always end up wanting to know way more details. He said Lance has always been a little weird and quirky, but never really crazy. He was constantly arguing with his mom every time he saw her and then ranting about Republicans and Mormons when he got home. I'd sometimes talk with him for like 4 hours of him just ranting about his mom and family. He really hates Mormons. Now, this is true. In fact, there's old pictures that show that he was very Mormon as well. Here he is actually younger. I believe this was at a recital. And then here is his mom posting about competition piano pieces with everybody. You can see here is Lance with his family. And is it just me? Or it's always the eyes. Does anybody else see in his eyes that something is not right? You can see it clear as day that something is totally off. He then says the apartment would drastically shift from clean to super dirty depending on state of Lance's moods. I don't have too many pictures of most of the mess, but basically he'd start living in the living room and just start turning it into his nest. Blah, blah, blah. Moved out, and right after Tyler moved in, like 2 weeks after, Lance had a really big breakdown. The living room went from a place you could have guests over to something it felt like, and then it's blocked out. But there's actually pictures of this as well. There's other there's other pictures of, a very messy looking house, but this is sort of what he's talking about here, of just a table in the living room, just covered with stuff. Again, Lance's like weird fixations on certain things, and it would just cover the entire room. There was no peace in the house, of course. When you know what their personal lives are like, there's no peace in the mind of somebody who is tricked by Satan into believing that they were born into the wrong body. But you add on top of that a very spiritual darkness, spiritual, not just oppression, but even possession, and just an inclination to mania that can just be exacerbated by the spiritual darkness that they were inviting into their lives. He counted himself kind of close to Tyler and Lance, and then was trying to distance himself because being around them wasn't good for him. And he said that Tyler was always really level-headed and easygoing, but Lance could be anywhere from too depressed to talk to manic, wide eyes, crazy person. And again, there comes back the eyes of Lance. You can see it in his eyes, plain as day. Tyler was kind of the normal blue-collar Utah guy. Most conversations with him, he'd talk hunting, camping, gaming, and he loved talking about fishing. Tyler moved in with Lance, And then Lance went nuts, and the entire downstairs just became his nest. And he'd be doing experiments in the kitchen where mostly just growing mold in Tupperware mugs, and the kettle with random Temu trinkets and rockets submerged in them. He also goes on to say that Lance did copious amounts of drugs and drank a ton, like he was an alcoholic. And this is all stuff that we knew, but this just confirms. But at the tail end, after we'd both talked for a while, he told me he was twan and that it wouldn't change anything, and that I could even use whatever pronouns and he wouldn't care. Over the next week and a half, living room got dismantled. He vacuumed and cleaned the kitchen a bit. He still kept one mold experiment outside. Started commenting on how it's nice that we could hang out without being scared of accidentally touching trash or a trinket and having Lance freak out. We'd have mostly weekly magic night at the apartment. And then he goes on to talk about how Lance started to seem kind of normal. However, Lance flipped out and started throwing his Magic the Gathering cards. And then he kind of just stopped going over there again. And then he would also see how Lance would have a big blow up, freak out, and then start to cuddle with Tyler on the couch. And he didn't really know what to think about it because he thought that Tyler was actually a virgin when he moved in and didn't know that they had any type of romantic relationship. But he started to see things that went, oh, this is a romantic relationship, when he would walk in and they would be sleeping together. They would be cuddling together. And then he talks about how Lance amped up complaints about old people and staring at him, even though he would walk around with mascara and makeup on, and he hated that people would stare at him for it. And Tyler wouldn't really get political until the election. He'd sometimes just casually bring up the latest thing Trump had done and complain about it, but and where the country was going. But he was very level-headed about everything, is what this person is saying. He says that Lance was in an LGB group with a lot of mental illness. Not saying that the two are linked. They totally are, but he's not saying that they are. But he's saying that these were the kind of people, these mentally ill LGB type people were in these servers and in the Discord, and they were basically making him an extremist. And then he says at this point, he could safely say that Lance and Tyler were completely left-wing. He says that he did see them start to become radicalized. At some point, they told me about their relationship and were pretty open about it. So now he knows that they are in a relationship together. Although he says it became very uncomfortable for me because while I don't think of myself as homophobic, seeing two dudes constantly make out was a bit much. Yeah, I don't care how loving and accepting you think you are or inclusive you think you are. Nobody's going to sit there and watch two dudes making out and go, yeah, this feels natural. This is right. You have to do something against your own heart, mind, body, and soul in order to even put up with it at all. And the Bible talks about in Romans 1 how man is given over to this kind of thing. He says Lance became more and more erratic, and that he had started growing breasts, and said that he'd been taking black market HRT. Yeah, it's as dangerous as you would think it would be. Throwing your hormones out of whack with some black market stuff that you don't know totally what's in it. I mean, this stuff will throw you for a loop, getting it from a doctor, getting it from a legit source. Doesn't even have to be black market. To go on Amazon and buy some hormone supplements and you start throwing your hormones out of balance. And then he said that he thought Lance was starting to come back around to being sort of normal because he started talking again. But he was so wrong. And then he says after this, Lance went mental. He would be super wide-eyed with like either a loopy grin or a rictus grin like the Joker, depending on his mood. And again, when you look at pictures like this, you can see how he could get that look on his face. Again, it's all in the eyes. But you add like that wacky look that you get, that glaze in the eyes you get from a lot of these, especially if he's taking these black market TRT and whatever other drugs he was actually on, and the constant drinking, which would dull your eyes, sink your eyes in. Again, the add a gauntness to your cheeks. maybe some yellowing of the eyes. And then he started doing experiments again, like jugs of water with whisks full of aluminum foil that had 2 copper wires coming out of them. He started doing all this weird kind of experimental type stuff. And then he had all these crazy drawings with weird words on them that didn't even spell anything, but supposedly had meaning to them, and symbols. And you could, just wacky stuff. A lot of this kind of stuff is actually not abnormal for people that are like this. This is actually extremely normal for people who are manic or have some sort of like psychosis diagnosis or schizophrenia. He even said it got to the point where if he was religious, he would call an exorcist to come and try to exorcise Lance Twiggs. That's how bad it got, because he would see his face while he was drawing a lot of this stuff. And he said his face was creepier than the drawings. Another thing that's telling is that he talks about how Lance would stay up all night talking to ChatGPT. And this is the kind of stuff that will definitely drive you to psychosis. Up all night talking to AI as if there's any heart, mind, or soul behind what is being relayed to you. But the new phenomenon happening right now is men talking to ChatGPT for days at a time, and it making them manic and just destroying their minds. And he says that he believes Tyler was just going crazy in that apartment all day with Lance. Now he ends his messages by saying this, and also for the record, Tyler 100% calls Lance my love when they are talking alone. That more than anything makes me believe that those text messages that the FBI released, remember the ones that were saying like vehicle and and just had really weird language to it, and that were very suspicious, which they absolutely are suspicious. But this person says that the language was in those text messages actually fits with how Lance and Tyler would communicate with each other. And then he says, hopefully this sheds some light on what was going on behind the scenes. So you have all of this with the fact that Tyler has confessed on all of these message boards under the same account that he had used for years and years, and under other accounts that he had used. He had multiple accounts and different Discord servers, and he confessed to all of this. I love this reminder of what love truly is in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Look at this. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. But hey, let me know your thoughts about all this in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, join this community. I would love to hear from you on a regular basis. And please, hit that thumbs up button, when you like this video, to get pushed out to more people, and it would really help spread the truth. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.